I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, oh, it's not that bad. Right. I mean, I've gone to networking events and say, hi, I'm Sabeina Harris. I own Inspire You Apps. We develop mobile apps and software. And they're like, oh, you own it? Why wouldn't I?
Because we're more so in the kind of like the hustle mentality. Like we just got to make money, but we're not thinking long term.
Right.
Welcome to Beyond Her Hustle, the podcast where we empower ambitious women to redefine success, find healing, and create a life of abundance beyond the hustle. Join me as we explore topics like financial literacy, healing, well-being, relationships, personal and career development, and holistic success. Get ready to break free from the hustle and step into a world of limitless possibilities. I am your host, Nicole. Let's embark on this transformative journey together.
Now, today we have a super special guest. We go really way back. I remember I went to one of your events years ago, and so I'm really glad to be able to bring her on today. We have Sabeina. Sabeina, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And we do go way back. That was pre-pandemic, which seems like so long ago now.
Gosh. Yeah, it was like a whole nother, it's weird because now with like the pandemic and everything is like pre-pandemic life and then post.
Yeah, it looks different, but it's nice to see you.
Yeah, I appreciate you for coming out. And I really wanted you to come on the show because I know that you've been in the tech industry for a while, but I saw that you made a post about you creating an app with AI.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we got to get you on here to really spread this knowledge because I think that was amazing. So maybe you can give us a little bit of your background for the people who are watching who may not know you.
Definitely. Well, like I said, thanks for having me on. I have been in the tech space since 2017. So everybody always asks, like, how did you end up in tech? Right. I went to college for marketing and public relations, so something completely unrelated. But my father, I grew up with my grandparents and called my grandfather my dad. So my dad was a coder, and he tried to teach me how to code at a very young age. I fought him on it. It wasn't the cool thing to learn how to do. Right. So finally, about middle school time frame, I started paying attention, and I never did anything with it. He begged me to, major in computer science when I got to college, and I was like, no, it's not the cool thing to do, right? Like, I don't want to do that. And I got out of school and started my own marketing agency. And a lot of my clients wanted to build mobile apps and websites and software and had really cool ideas, and they didn't have the budget. So me, being the person that I am, I was like, there's a problem. I need to solve it. So literally that is how my company was formed.
Wow. So it's almost like you fell into it kind of on accident, like it wasn't intentional.
Yeah. It wasn't intentional for me, but the story was already written. It's a reason why my dad was telling me since I was very young, like elementary school, about coding and trying to teach me coding. I mean, most people went to like soccer camp, and I did play sports, but I was at computer class. Like that was my extracurricular activity all the way through middle school. And then finally 6th grade, he was like, all right, I'll let you play sports. So, that was very important for him. So it wasn't intentional as far as with my design, but it was already written, girl, that it was going to happen.
That's really cool because I know now in today's age is definitely more common for kids to learn about coding. You have like the programs, kid programs for computers and coding, but I feel like before that wasn't the norm.
Oh no, I mean, like you said, now you see like kid coding camps, you see like in storefronts, people have opened up businesses to teach kids how to code. That wasn't a thing. Like, I think that program that I'm from Garland, so shout out to anybody who's from Garland. But that program was through the city, and it was like one of few that was available, back then. But now it's great to see that it's available at such, a rapid rate for kids of all ages. Because I saw one the other day in Frisco, starting at age 6. Wow. Could you imagine if you learned playing starting at the age of 6? Right. That's crazy, but it's good.
But it makes sense because I was just actually talking to Austin the other day, and I was thinking like these kids, they play these video games where they're building cities and all kinds of stuff, and it's like they could really take those skills and apply them to the real world, but it's just we don't really talk about that connection,
Yeah, even think about, like, I'm telling my age here a little bit, but like social media for us was like MySpace, right? You remember? I don't know if you remember MySpace, but like we were coding then and we didn't even know it, because in order for you to have a page, and it depends on how detailed you got with your page, but I was that person that was like changing the background and, had objects flying and moving on my page and the music synced. All of that was basic code, in order to make it work. So even us as adults, late 30s, that we were coding back then and we didn't even know.
Yeah, that's true. That's crazy. So I wasn't a big MySpace user, but I used to blog on a site called Tumblr.
Yes, I remember
and
Tumblr.
And so I used to the HTML codes and I didn't know what that was. I was just trying to look cool on the internet, but who knew that was, a skill that would be very useful even now, like in my business, what I do now is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see like the industry evolve. And for us, as brown people, I don't want to say late to the game, because I hate that everything that we talk about is always like, oh, we found out 40 years later, even though it's the truth. You know what I mean? But we're starting to get introduced thanks to things like social media and, being at YouTube, being able to find out information. But it's definitely been around for a while. I'm just so excited to see us getting into the industry.
Oh, me too. Because there's just so much. And it's like the more that I learn about technology, I realize that there's so much more that I don't know about it. And when you first, start realize that your clients, were needing the app, wanting the apps, and you may have a solution for it. How did you jump into that? Did you start taking classes? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, so I offer low-code, no-code solutions to my clients, because what I realized is people, like your everyday person that runs an e-commerce store, they know how to run an e-commerce store. They don't necessarily know how to code and don't have interest in learning how to code. So I wanted to build tools that you could come to me as a client and we could build out a mobile app or a website for you. You could walk away and know how to utilize that platform and it not be a challenge there if you're trying to learn another thing as a business owner, right? So for us, as far as how I structured the business, we do have software developers that can code, and we offer that as a skill if needed. But I really wanted to be able to reach a group of people that we can get you your MVP model quickly, get you quicker to market, get you a great product, and it not be as expensive as you having to go and get something coded.
Because I know that they do get pricey.
Oh, yeah.
I know that we were looking at building a platform somewhat recently, and I think that the quote they gave was minimum $100,000 for the platform. And I was like, I thought it was going to be a little 5, 10, like maybe at the most, but I really had no idea that that's how much sometimes it could really cost.
Yeah, I mean, definitely when you think about the work that goes into every click, if you take a video and put it onto the website, if you want people to be able to click and a new window opens, all of that in the background requires a line of code. So that is why my company specifically, we really do tell people like, hey, we have low code, no code tools. And what that means is think about your Shopify's, your Wix. Those are all websites that work wonderful, right? But it doesn't require you to have to code in order to make those clicks happen. So we found solved a problem, found a solution. So yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking whoever gave you that quote. I'm sure whatever you were asking for warranted the amount, but there's different ways to go about building that same tool and not having to like sell your lung in order to do it.
Right. Yeah. So your company, you built the apps for your clients.
Yes. So we build mobile apps and software.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. So what are some ways that as a business owner, who may not, be very knowledgeable in the tech space, do you think it's important for them to incorporate these new, models of technology like the no-code apps, or even having an application or AI? Is that important?
Oh, most definitely. I'm not going to say everybody's on Instagram, right? Because I don't want to make that assumption.
Right.
But I'm sure a large majority of your audience is on Instagram. And we know about every 2 to 3 months, Instagram shuts down randomly.
Right.
So if you think about if all of your business, your audience, everything tied to your business is on Instagram and it shuts down, that can literally make you close, right? You can go out of business. So really the benefit of having a mobile app or a website is so that you can have that audience in the palm of your hand. You have direct connection with that audience. Think about when you go live on Instagram. If you get too many people, too many likes, too many follows, you might get shadow banned. If you have your own mobile app, you don't have to worry about that. So I always tell people, like, think about it in that way of having your audience. It's like a new age email list, right? So you want to be able to talk directly to your customers.
And that's really smart. And I know that is one of the reasons why we've been considering having a platform of our own. Because, you don't really have control on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And I know that a lot of people have been having issues with being shadow banned. Yeah. And I know even for me, like my reach on like Instagram or TikTok has not been what it used to be 2 years ago.
Right.
And it can be very frustrating. And if your business solely depends on that, I mean, there's not much that you can do, Right. And so being able to have people on your own platform, and it also goes into, I'm not going to go deep into this, but like the valuation of your company as well,
definitely.
You know, and I feel like especially in our community, it's not something that we think about because we're more so in the kind of like the hustle mentality, like we just got to make money, but we're not thinking long term,
right? Yeah, you brought up a good point. I mean, especially again, knowing your audience is business owners, the goal of most people, not all, but the goal is to build the business so you can either sell it, pass it on to your kids maybe, or I'm pretty sure nobody starts a business and says, well, I just want to run this for 50 years and that's it, right. Like you really are thinking about the future, or you should be. So when you talk about evaluation and pitching your business for funding or for someone to potentially buy your business from you, they want to know that you have a built-in audience. If your audience is owned by Facebook, right, then that doesn't mean that they're not going to purchase your business, but that's a risk because how do I know that if I give you $100,000 and if Instagram shuts down, then what? So it's just things to be forward thinking. And I think thinking about it as a tool for your business and not necessarily like, oh, I don't need that because it's not important. Don't get left behind. Think about when Facebook first started. Some people were late to jump on Facebook and like get a page. And remember that was back when like businesses could have pages and not have to pay to play. Yeah. And now we've evolved to the point where it's all about the money, right? But if you didn't jump on that train early, you might have missed it. So don't miss your opportunity to really build your own audience.
That's very true. And I know that one pushback that I hear often, I'm sure you hear this too, with, well, how do you even get people from Facebook, Instagram? That's where they're used to going. Like, would people even take the time to go to a business owner's application?
Yeah, so I think I tell everybody, look at it the same way about your website or any other platform that you have that is outside of social media. Because even on social media, you have your page. So let's look at that as like your intellectual property, your domain, right? But you have to come up with a strategy every day of how am I going to get my post, me, in front of people. You treat your mobile app the same way. So yes, it's a whole lead, sales funnel system that you put in place if you're doing it right to get people off the platform and then onto your mobile app. And then what type of engaging content can you produce to keep them on the app, to make sure that they don't delete the app off of their phone. Same way with Instagram. How do I make sure I keep followers, gain followers, and that they don't unfollow me? So same type of strategy.
I didn't really think of it that way, but it is just like you're having your site and directing people to it. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, with you being in the tech space since 2017, right? You said
17, yeah.
I know that it's not the most diverse industry.
I laugh because you are exactly correct.
But I think it's gotten better over the years, or at least I see more people in just minority communities talking about it. But what is that like being in the tech space as a Black woman?
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, oh, it's not that bad. Right. I mean, I've gone to networking events and say, hi, I'm Sabeina Harris. I own Inspire You Apps. We develop mobile apps and software. And they're like, oh, you own it? Why wouldn't I? Like, do I look like the janitor? No shade to the janitor, but why would you ask me that? You know what I mean? So it's difficult, but I think it's only as bad as we make it. Like, I am fully aware that there's not a lot of us, and we are starting to make progress in that area, but I also have the mentality of like, yes, I'm a Black woman. No, there's not going to be a lot of me when I walk into some of these events, but I'm also I'm not going to let that handicap me, right? Like, my mentality is, yeah, I'm a Black woman, so what? Like, that gives me my superpower. Right. We all know what that is. But I'm not going to let the fact that I'm the only one or one of few in a room stop me, right? That doesn't make my company not as credible as the white guy down the street. I might have a little bit more swag than he does, but that's okay, and I might understand my clientele and who I appeal to a little differently than he may. But it doesn't make me less qualified because I'm a Black woman. But it's difficult. You just have to own it and be okay knowing you're going to be one of the only or few.
I really love that mindset because you know it's there, you know the prejudice or whatever is there, but not allowing that to actually stop you and what know that you're meant to achieve with your company. That's huge, and I think a lot of people allow that to hold them back because like, well, no one looks like me, so I don't want to go into that room. And I always tell people, like, sometimes we have to learn from other people who don't look like us.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know, we have to connect, we have to network, and that's just a part of the game you have to play.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, I think part of it comes from my corporate training as well. I mean, I spent a lot of time in corporate marketing where I was not necessarily the only woman because, you know, there's a lot of women in marketing, but a lot of times the only African-American in the room, you know, or the only African-American working at that level for a company. So my whole career, I've been the only or one of the few, you know? So yeah, it can be daunting, but again, you own it. And I know walking in at least I know what I'm dealing with, you know, when I walk in the room, it's almost like, okay, if there's more than 3, I'm like, wow, that's great. I'm here to celebrate it. But if there's not, I already knew that before I walked in the room, you know?
Right. I love that mindset. Do you go to any, I know that they have, what is it called? Like the Afrotech conferences and things like
Definitely.
that?
Yeah, I went to Afrotech this year down in Austin. They're having it again. I'm not paid by Afrotech, but I'm a huge advocate for when I find a good event, go and attend. It is worth the investment. There was over 20,000 people, Black people, in Austin, Texas, that were either in tech or looking to transition into the field. It looked like an HBCU homecoming in Austin, Texas. And if you know anything about Austin, I don't want to quote the wrong statistic, but I'm pretty sure it's less than 5% Black. Like it was, you know, it was wonderful to see. It was life-changing, to be honest with you.
That's really cool. You know, I haven't been, but I know that we've talked about, me and Austin talked about this year, like getting out more and going to more events like that with Afrotech. What's the other one that's down there? South by Southwest?
Yeah, South by Southwest is coming up. I think it starts March 10th, I believe. And it goes for like a couple of weeks, so you have some time.
Okay, yeah, definitely getting out more and just connecting and networking. How has networking helped you, like in the tech field, and how so, if it has?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. You know, we go way back pre-pandemic, and it was a shift for me because I was very social and always out, you know, pre-pandemic. Then the pandemic hit, and it was like, all right, stayed in the house, and I had to almost like force myself to get back out in person and start networking. So, and part of the reason was I was like, man, I can tell a difference in my business. You know, it's different when I can come out and you can talk to me and sit down and hold a conversation, shake my hand, see who I am. I'm a real person, you know, versus just seeing me online. So it's made a heck of a difference, not only for getting clients, but also me being able to employ people, because that's a big thing for me, especially employ us, you know, within this industry. So going out to these networking events and meeting my next developer or UX, UI designer, or my next project manager, and being able to say, hey, I have a project for you. Let's collaborate. I would love to hire you. You know, those type of things have happened at events versus sitting behind a screen.
Yeah, and I know that's been really our focus, is just getting out more.
Yeah.
And we've been able to connect with amazing people because of that, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we talked about Austin and things that are going on, but I have to shout out the city of Dallas because there is a lot of good events going on. I mean, you just put one on a couple of weeks.
If you are enjoying this type of content from Beyond Her Hustle, make sure you go to beyondherhustle.com and join our growing community. There you can find additional resources, exclusive trainings, workshops, and so much more within our community. So make sure you go to beyondherhustle.com.
Mixer Cloud, I went to that. There was probably easily over 200 people, you know, there, Black people that are in tech or looking to transition. So there's a lot of events. You just have to find them and do the research.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to being in the tech space, I know that we're in Dallas. I think Texas, their tech community is growing
Very much so.
with all the companies coming here, especially down in Austin, but I know in Dallas too, a lot of companies. For someone who is maybe they're not interested in being an entrepreneur per se, but they still want to get into the tech space, like are there opportunities or lanes for those types of people?
Oh yeah, I mean, in every way that you can think about. There's fintech, there's tech within the healthcare space. Every industry, there's some type of technology, even in education. You know, if you think about your children, and when they come home with their homework and they're like, oh, mom, you have to log into whatever system in order to get access to my grades or my homework or our lesson for today, that's tech. right? That's a job opportunity.
Right.
So there's definitely, just getting into tech isn't, go start your own software development company. Right. Like there, you can, if you're a project manager, you can be a project manager in tech. There's different ways that you can get involved in the industry and not have to be technical. That's one thing I do want to clear up, is that you don't have to know how to code in order to be in tech. And that's kind of a misconception. But it's definitely reality that there are so many roles that you never even touch coding and you're in the tech space.
And that's something that I recently learned, honestly, because I just assumed, you can only be a tech company, or you can only be in tech if you were the one doing the coding, you're creating softwares, applications. I didn't realize that you can be in sales. I mean, you can be in HR, marketing. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different lanes. And because the tech space is growing, and I feel like it's going to keep on growing, I think people need to explore just different options in the industry.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also one of those industries that even if it's a company that traditionally didn't really care about keeping up with technology and evolving in that way, you'll start to see that they, by choice, are starting to think about like, okay, let's consider, what is a product that we can offer, or how do we catch up, right? Right. So, there's just like there's jobs in every department for, a non-technical business. On the technical side, it's the same.
I think that goes into just a lack of, I don't want to say lack of information, because the information's out there. Right, I think it's just a lack of awareness, and people just don't even know what questions to ask, to be honest, especially within the Black community. And sometimes I do feel like we're behind, because I'll mention certain things like ChatGPT or some of the other technologies, and people will not even know what they are. But then I go into other rooms with different demographics, and it's like they've been on this for years. Right. And I'm just like, how did we not know about this?
Well, you have to think about it. Like you said, the information's out there, but if you don't know what you don't know. Right. So if we're not having this conversation, and if your viewers aren't watching it, somebody's watching this right now and they're like, Chat GPT, what is that? Let me go to Google while I'm watching this interview. And that's how you learn. Right. If we're not having those type of conversations, then unfortunately we won't learn. Whereas our sitting around the dinner table, if we have a dinner table to sit around, our conversations look a little different than some other demographics. Right. So that's where I feel like we're making improvement, and shows like this will help. But, it's information is key. And once you learn about it, that's the key, is like, okay, now you know about ChatGPT. Let me go do my own research and figure out how I can either learn more to apply it as a skill for a job, or maybe use it in my business, however you choose to use AI. But it's learned, now right? You can't say you don't know anymore.
Right. And I know some people I've seen like on Facebook, like, I don't say Facebook trolls, but kind of. So like I'll make a post about like AI and new technology coming out, and they'll say things like, oh, well, no, like this is very scary, or, they're going to take over the world, or just things like that. Like, is that a valid fear to have when it comes to technology?
I mean, think about it. Like, we've evolved with cell phones, right? Back when we first got cell phones, you couldn't look at the phone and unlock your phone. You couldn't take your thumbprint and unlock it. Nobody was like, oh my God, the world is ending. Right. Like, they're selling my DNA because they can scan my face, right? Like, we've just evolved to being efficient and more convenient. So is it scary? Maybe to some. I'm sure if I told my grandma, like, hey, I can build an app that I literally can just create a blog post about this show, and it's going to write a blog post, she probably thinks that's like aliens. But when you're talking to someone like you and I, who we've evolved and we grew up with tech, then we're not as scared for change, right? So to answer your question, like, yeah, it may be scary to some, and some people are in fear of like, oh, AI is going to take my job. I'm sure, our older generation, again, I'll use my grandparents as an example, probably thought when computers came out that a computer was going to take their job. But it's all about evolving and figuring out how to take the tool and add value, versus thinking about, oh, I don't want to learn it, or this is scary. It's here. It's not going anywhere. We're going to have robots. We already have robots delivering our food and things like that. And you stay in hotels, and sometimes the robot brings you the towel. You know what I mean? You can either be scared of that or adapt to the fact that, okay, a robot may bring me my food, and that's okay, So don't be scared. It's okay.
And I've heard that I've heard a lot, especially in recent years, like, AI is going to take my job, or people like posting online saying, you have to get into the tech field because robots are going to be replacing the everyday like worker. Is that true? Like, do you think that we're not going to have people in stores or restaurants anymore?
I mean, I can't predict the future, right? So my gut tells me that you're never going to be able to 100% replace a human, let's say in a store.
Right.
But think about your Walmarts or Kroger. Let's use Walmart, for example. 10 years ago, Walmart had 50 lanes. They may not have all been open, but they had 50 cashier lanes. Yeah. With maybe 10 people working, right, on a Sunday. Now, if you walk in Walmart, half those lanes are gone, and it's a self-checkout. It's a computer, and there's one person running that command station of self-checkout machines. So, again, do I think that they still have to have that person there for when it doesn't read your card or can't read your, the label that you scan? Somebody has to help you. So, no, they're not going to get rid of humans. But are we going to start to see robots replace jobs? It's already happening. You know what I mean? So again, it all comes back to, if I'm a cashier, I may be a little fearful of, oh man, this self-checkout is coming in and taking my job. But then I have a decision to make. Do I stay here at this level set of skill of being a cashier, or do I figure out what's next for me? Because obviously I see this computer is taking my job. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And it does make sense because, like you said, it's really a decision that they have to make.
Yeah.
And it's really up to that individual person to say, hey, I'm going to kind of be like the victim of this whole technology era, or I'm just going to figure out a way to gain more skills.
Right.
That's one thing that I love to advocate for is for people to start gaining more skills and going to trade schools. And, just a lot of times people think that traditional college is the only route, but there's a lot of skills that I actually don't think that robots or AI or technology is going to replace, or at least not immediately. There's a lot of trades that people could be gaining skills. It's just because we think it's either college or nothing, I feel like that middle ground gets missed a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'll use myself for an example. I told you I didn't go to school for anything related to what my business is. Right. Nothing at all, completely opposite. I'm self-taught 100%. But there's no robot that can come in and run my company, right? There may be robots that I can use, or AI that I can use to help me elevate what we offer as a company. But there's no replacing me with AI or a robot. You know what I mean?
Right.
So my whole point is, like, yes, you mentioned about college and, it's either a degree or nothing. That's not true. I've heard stories and know people that don't have a college degree, and they came out of school, they got certain certifications within tech, and they make more money than I do. You know what I mean? So, and it's, for some people, it may not be about the money. College does give you a foundation and certain opportunities, but it's not the only way. And to be quite honest, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And when you look at the risk versus the reward, I'm not knocking anybody going to college. I went to college. It paid off for me in certain ways. But when you have to make a financial decision of, do I go $40,000 in debt and go get a degree that I may or may not work in? You know what I mean? Or do I go and specialize in something, being tech, get some certifications, and continue to learn? And I can take my income from, maybe I might graduate and make $50,000. I don't know what the entry level salary is these days. Or I can put in that same 4 years of work, get certifications, learn that skill, and come out making $70,000, $80,000. Again, it's all about what's most beneficial for the individual. But college is not the only way to go. That's my point.
So to work in tech, you really don't necessarily have to have a college degree, right?
No.
Wow.
No, you don't. I mean, again, I'm not going to say that there's not companies out there that want that as a requirement, but one of the differences that I find in the tech industry is it is about you knowing the skill. So I'll give you an example. If I'm hiring a developer, I don't care if you went to college. Right. I care that you know how to code, or if you're one of my no-code developers, I care that you know how to utilize the tools. Your degree means nothing to me if you don't know how to do those two things. So that's just me and my company.
Yeah.
You can't say what the next, person does. But that's my point of, like, I could have a Harvard graduate sitting in front of me. If you don't know how to code or use the no-code tools and you're applying to be a developer, that Harvard degree means nothing to me.
Right.
Now, it may have helped you with some soft skills. I know that you can focus on something and commit to a certain amount of time and get something accomplished. And you grew up in the process, hopefully. Right. But when it comes to this job, it does nothing for me.
That's a really interesting perspective, honestly, because at least for me, especially growing up, when you think about tech and engineers, like you just think that you have to have, years and years of college, bachelor's, master's degrees, but just now seeing how accessible it can be for the everyday person to gain those skills and actually be able to have a career or have a business in tech is just like mind blowing.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm only speaking for tech. I can't speak for other industries. But the thing about tech that's like fascinating, but also a little exhausting at the same time, it's forever changing. So you should never stop learning in any area that you decide to pursue. But especially in tech, it's evolved, right? When I graduated college, what tech looked like then and what it looks like now, totally different. So I had to keep learning or I was going to get passed up for opportunities and be able to scale my business and, always be in the know.
Right.
So, it is an area that you can get a certification, but you have to continue to utilize those skills and keep learning. You're always when you're in tech, you never stop going to school. It's always another certification that you're trying to get because you're trying to stay caught up.
And I always say, always be a student.
Yes.
Always be a student. That's with anything like entrepreneurship, tech, really everything. Just always be a student. For someone who's looking to get into this space, I mean, where can you start? Because I know that we can go to YouTube University and get tons of information, but it's sometimes challenging to piece up different videos and knowing what information is accurate, what information is not. So is there a good starting point for someone?
Yeah, so I would say think about where you are in your current career, right? I'll use myself for an example. I was coming out of marketing. Now, marketing wasn't something that I wanted to continue to pursue, professionally when I decided to start my company and build. But if I was that girl, right, several years ago, and I'm like, okay, I've been doing marketing for a while, where do I start? I would research and find out, okay, I have this skill set. What are some transferable skills? Maybe it's not digital marketing or knowing how to do a campaign, but what are some skills that I can transfer over to the tech industry and start researching those? And those will unlock some opportunities for you that you didn't even know existed. So that would be my first step. I definitely think if I tell you don't go on social media and YouTube, you're going to be like, okay, am I supposed to pick up a book? Right. What am I going to do? So yeah, utilize those tools. But one thing I want people to be mindful of is right now we live in an era where everybody's like, get into tech. You can make 6 figures. You can be island hopping. You can work remote and drive the fancy car. That's possible. That's also possible doing other fields, but don't get into it just for that. Because tech is an industry that you have to know your stuff, or just as quick as you got the certification and maybe you finessed your way into an interview and somebody gave you a job. If you don't know what you're doing and they don't have time to teach you, you're going to be unemployed. So really be an artist of your craft and learn your skill and be able to apply it. Don't just get online, get the certification, and now all of a sudden you're chasing that $100,000 career. That's going to come regardless in tech.
I know that, especially right now on social media, I feel like that's like a very trendy word, trendy topic with get into tech. It's like now everybody is a coach or a teacher teaching people how to get careers in tech. It's just a big thing right now. They make it seem like the barrier of entry is very low, where literally anybody can get in, and the first year you're making like $80K.
So here's the thing, and I don't mean any shade to any of the Instagram coaches or the TikTok coaches. Number one, do your research, right? So if you come across somebody and they come in your feed and they're telling you what to do to make this transition, go look them up. Make sure they are who they say they are, because anybody can get online and I could be a car salesman.
Right.
Hey, girl, go buy this whatever car. It's going to get you from here to here, and it's only going to cost you $50,000. I don't know nothing about cars, So do your homework, first of all. But second of all, I think the reason why they're saying the barrier entry, you're trying to make it seem like it's so easy. You have tons of certifications. Some of them are free. So Google is a great example. They really have been kind of at the forefront of, hey, we're going to put out this information that you can go and get, and all you have to do is commit hours of your time. But that one certification is not going to get you that $100,000 job. But if I'm that Instagram coach that's selling you on this, I'm going to tell you, go get the Google certification, go apply for a job tomorrow, and you can make $100,000. Is it a lie? Not really, because somebody probably did it. You know what I mean? One of few may have looked up and that's their journey. But in reality, that Google certification is a stepping stone to, okay, now I understand what direction I want to go. Now I go and look at some of the more professional, not to say that Google's not professional. I want Google coming for me. But, you go and look at a different certification that you can get within whatever area you're going to pursue. And now you start building on that Google certification. So I think the other reason with the salary is tech seems to pay higher than some of the other industries, right? If you go and you're a first-year teacher, what you make as a first-year teacher and what you can make as a first-year software developer looks a little different.
Right.
So I think that is why there's that misconception that you can just, study overnight, get the certification, and tomorrow you're making $100,000. That's not true. And I think the people who go into it with that mindset, they quickly get out of tech because they went into it for the wrong reasons, right? I'm just going to be overnight. I'm going to make all this money. And that's not how it works.
That's how they make it seem. That's really how they make it
marketing.
Seem. It's like, I'm going to take this class and then I'm going to, get hired the next day. Are there some, I guess, like downfalls to being in tech? Because I know, like I said, it's a very popular, very important, but very popular kind of trending thing on social media with trying to bring people into the industry. Are there some like pitfalls that people aren't really talking about right now?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time that people say, hey, get into this so that you can be remote and island hop every day, it's a lot of long hours. You know what I mean? Because you have very complex projects that you're working on. Things are forever changing. In the corporate arena, sometimes you're working with stakeholders that they know they want to build that next, platform or mobile app, but that's all they know, right? They just know that Bob told them at the golf course yesterday that they need to go build an app for their company. So now they're doing it and they don't really know what they want, right? So now things are forever changing, and understanding stakeholders who are non-technical, but you have to make them understand technical process and projects. So a lot of hours. You're seeing right now that there has been a lot of layoffs in the tech industry. Part of that is because a lot of companies overhired, during the pandemic, look different. Consumers look different in their behaviors than they do now. People are back outside.
Right.
How they shop, how they move is different. So you're going to have a little bit of friction there. But, outside of the hours, I would say that's one thing people don't talk about. The stability of your job. I'm not saying that tech isn't stable, because no job is guaranteed. I don't care who you are, unless you literally run the company, right? And even then, if you have a board, you might be on the chopping block.
Right.
So, I think that you have to just be mindful of, just like any industry, nobody's safe. So those are some things that I would mention, is the long hours and then just the stability.
That's really some good things to keep in mind, because I have heard that about the hours. I think I saw someone, I can't remember his name, he's here in Dallas, saying that he worked like a 12-hour day or something, but he worked from home, but it was still just like a lot of work. And I was like, wow, I guess I thought people were just maybe working a few hours, press a couple buttons, and then
I wish. And I can only speak from like running a company, right? But even for my company, if we have an app that we're building, and if my client gives us feedback, we have boundaries so that my developer's not working, 10, 12 hours a day.
Right.
But guess what? If we have to make changes and you were like, oh, I thought we were at a good place and this was done, we have to do what needs to be done, right? So that may be something that you didn't walk into the office that day knowing that you were going to have to make all these changes and maybe do something over again that you thought you were good, So I think with any industry, though, I don't want to scare people out of tech.
Right.
Like, again, no industry is stable, unless you have your name on the building. And we just said, even then.
Yeah.
You could be on the chopping block. Yeah. So I think it's romanticized. They're making tech sexy right now, right? Like, $100,000. Well, eggs are $8.
Right.
Milk is like $5. So the $100,000 hits a little different. I'm not saying that it's not a lot of money, because it is, especially if you do right by it. But it's not that simple. And I think anybody who is sitting back and you're looking for the easy way out, tech or whatever industry you go into, I think that's something you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, why am I doing this? That's the big thing.
Yeah, because I guess it goes back to really with any industry or business that you get into, when you start chasing the money and chasing the dollar signs to it, there's usually not going to be a lot of longevity because, like you said, you're really in it for the wrong reasons. I mean, I think I see that a lot happening right now in the tech space with people jumping in it because they see the dollar signs. I know that we have a background in trucking, and people will jump into trucking thinking, oh, wow, I'm going to make so much money. I see other companies making like $10,000 a week, but it's like you don't see the other side with, you know, we may have made $10,000 this week, but we also spent $9,000 in repairs, you know, so they don't look at the entire picture all the time, which is why I think it's really important for us to have these types of conversations just to be able to give a realistic perspective on the industry, because there are a ton of opportunities, but I want people to go into it with a mind frame of knowing what to expect.
Yeah, I mean, now let's be clear. Anybody who is working a job, we're not working it just because it's the fun thing to do, right? Or you would volunteer. You wouldn't try to be employed. There's a difference. So I think that for us, especially in our community, I'm a realist, right? I'm going to tell you the good, bad, and the ugly about being in this industry. But at the end of the day, you should watch that video and say, man, I can make $100,000. How can that change my life? How can that change my kid's life if you have children? How can that make an impact on my family or my community? So there's nothing wrong with hearing $100,000 and your, ears kind of perk up like, wait a minute, let me see what they're talking about. But if you think that it's a, get rich real quick, that's something you have to change your mindset.
So for business owners and entrepreneurs, are there ways for them to incorporate technology or current technology into their business now?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So think about, like we were talking about AI earlier. Think about like your sales funnel or your lead magnets. Let's say I was a restaurant, right? And I'm like, okay, I know people are going to go online or go from their mobile device and look at my website. What's something that I could do that's quick, that makes them interested in my company? Maybe it's an AI tool that you incorporate on your website that helps people kind of lead them in, hey, tell us your favorite foods. Do you like cheeseburgers? Do you like fries? And then they put that into the AI tool, and then the AI tool gives them menu suggestions. And maybe those menu suggestions are your top selling items that you have the biggest profit margin on. Those are ways that you can utilize tools even as a restaurant owner. Or maybe for yourself, you have so many things going on, and being able to utilize the tool to help you write content or come up with content ideas. It's not that AI is here to just do your job and do everything for you, but maybe you're stuck and you're like, I don't know what type of content I want to put out this week. Ask ChatGPT, it'll give you some examples, and that gives you something that kind of makes your wheels start turning, and you just build on it that way.
Yeah, I know that I've been using ChatGPT like it's Google. Yeah. So it's like, instead of me having to search through links to get an answer, I can just throw a question in there and then it spits something out, which is really cool. As far as with the business owners, do you think that it can be a dangerous thing to where, you can put in Chat GPT, create me a course about XYZ, and then selling that information? Like, do you think that it can become, do you think it is a dangerous thing to use it in your business, or will it be frowned upon because people might make assumptions?
I think that it can be dangerous if you are using the same example of like the self-checkout, if you take the human factor out of the process, right? Okay. So to your example about a course creation, if I just put that into ChatGPT and solely depend on the information it gives me, copy and paste that, put it into a course, bundle it and sell it like it was my own, number one, I'm lying. So you're always going to be able to point out a liar, right? That's going to expose itself. The other thing is, like, it's there, I think, to be thought starter, not for you to copy and paste, because you have to remember with ChatGPT, it doesn't go further back than 2021. Or excuse me, 2021 is the cutoff of information. So anything that is new, right, beyond 2021, that information's not there. So depending on what you're creating a course about, if there's been new information out, ChatGPT is not going to give you that beyond 2021. The other thing is that, again, today somebody can do that. You can have somebody selling a course that literally copied and pasted someone else. or Googled, right? And then went and copied and pasted the information. So we don't know that as consumers. So it is a little dangerous, but at the same time, if you do your homework, if you do your research, and you learn who you're buying from and become more savvy as a consumer, you lower the risk of that going on. But I think, again, use it as a tool. Right. Don't use it to 100% be the content that you're producing.
Are there any particular websites outside of just ChatGPT? Because I know it's a really popular one right now, but are there any other tools that a business owner can use that utilize AI?
Yeah, so there's Jasper.ai that does copywriting. So if you think about ChatGPT, you can write prompts and get information.
Right.
Jasper.ai is something that I would use if I was looking to actually write a blog. And you can put in prompts to help me formulate my own thoughts, right? So it's a copywriting tool. There's another one that I discovered yesterday. It's called Tome. It's Tome, so I may be saying it wrong, little country, but it's okay. But that, you can literally go in and put in a prompt of, I just tested it out, like create a presentation showing the benefits of low-code, no-code tools. And in 30 seconds, it produced an 8-slide presentation deck literally giving information on the benefits of no code, the foundation of no code, the history, with pictures and video. So when you think about it as a business owner, maybe you're putting together a proposal or a sales deck for you to be able to go out, to your potential clients. Or maybe you're doing a product review. Again, you could use a tool like that and in a couple of minutes have a presentation that don't copy and paste it, but you have the foundation built, where that deck may have taken you 3 weeks to write. You know what I mean? Now it took you 5 minutes and you made some tweaks and put your own information in there and you're good. Think about the food industry. Fast food, right? We want food yesterday. When we're shopping, we want Amazon to come tomorrow because you've trained us. In 2 days, some places one day, my package is going to show up. So now when I'm shopping other places or when I go to eat, I'm expecting everything to happen immediately. Technology's the same way. It's just applying it to content, copywriting, writing presentations versus getting your package in 2 days where it used to take 7 in the mail.
That's really interesting. And I never heard of that platform, which I'll definitely have to check it out after this. I know I've been doing a ton of research in just the different tools, and it seems like every day I learn a new AI tool that I can use in my business. It's almost overwhelming, the amount of information that there is out there.
There is. And one thing I will say is go looking for these tools knowing the needs you need to fill, right? If you just Google AI tools, hundreds are going to come up, and then you're going to spend time let me go learn this one. Let me go learn that one. And then have you really been efficient with your time? Part of the leverage of AI is for you to be efficient and quick and be able to get things done. So pick your battles, right? Figure out what's the pain point. If I was a new business owner, or even if I was established and I'm what are the things I need help on? What keeps me up at night? Those are the type of tools that I'm going to go and look for. If you go down the rabbit hole of just Googling AI tools, girlfriend, you're going to be there for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so many.
I know we just recently started getting into with Midjourney and some of the other, I guess, I don't know what you call it, picture. I don't know, I don't know what you would call it, but they create
where you
photos.
Get from text?
Yeah, and it creates the photos, and it's creating faces. And I don't know if you know this, but are they real faces that these AI are creating? How does that work?
Yeah, so Canva actually came out with an app within their tool that you can go into their app section. You put in I actually saw this from another creator here in Dallas that posted a video about it. But she used as an example black women at brunch in pastel colors. And the picture, that's all she typed in. And it literally gave 4 or 5 different pictures of black women in pastel colors. No food was involved, but it looked like maybe they were at brunch, just by how they were dressed.
Right.
So I didn't take that image and go Google search and see if these were real people, but it had to come from somewhere. You know what I mean? So I also think about all the images that are on the internet that we use today. If you Google a dog in the park, an image is going to come up. So has to pull the information from somewhere.
That's really interesting. I was just really wondering, like, how does that work? Are these real people? That's
Did you
where
make this up?
Yeah, like, that's where it was kind of getting to. Okay, I can see how people think it's a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
But to me, it's very fascinating because I just know that's the way of the future, and I feel like we just really need to just adapt and adjust to it.
Yeah, and I know, like, the one example that I gave you with Tome or Tomey, whichever one it is, that you can do with the presentations, that is royalty free content that they have access to. So that's not like they made up, these images and videos that they provide you. It's kind of like if you go on Unsplash, right, and you search for a photo, those photographers have given permission to Unsplash to post those images, even though you don't have to ask for permission to download them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think with anything, is it a possibility that they're taking pixels and making these photos? Maybe. You're not going to get me shut down by the feds who watching. So I can't call it, Well,
I feel like you've given a lot of information, and I really hope that it's been helpful for someone, a business owner, or really anyone who's just learning or looking to learn more about technology.
Yeah.
And my main thing is just giving people that starting point to kind of spark the interest so that they can go and do their own further research. Because sometimes, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. Exactly. And so I think just exposing them to the information is key. And so I just really appreciate the insights that you've been able to give.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I appreciate you giving me the platform. This is, I would say like a mission of mine. I know this information. It's no good if I can't reach back and help, somebody else, because I was that girl that, had no clue. And there's still so many things I don't know. So if somebody doesn't teach me and I don't know what to go look for, how do you learn?
Right.
So this is how we evolve and get better. And we can, now my goal is, 10 years from now, when we walk into rooms, I'm not getting dressed and being, I'm going to be one of few.
Yeah.
It's going to be, man, I can't wait to see all of us in the room at this tech event, So I want to change that narrative.
Absolutely. And I think you're really doing a great job at that now.
Thank you.
With just exposing people to tech, the different AI tools, like with your platform. Like I said, I saw a video that you posted about an AI tool that was helping you like create an app.
Yeah. So I actually made an app using AI. And the whole point was, again, it was solving a problem selfishly for myself, because I knew that one thing I wanted to do this year is start pitching to podcasts, host to be on their shows. And I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool to have something quick that I could produce that would give me pitches that I could send off to the host, put my own flair on it. And I was like, I can build an app for that. And literally in 30 seconds, again, built an app. It's actually on my Instagram page that I put up. I don't charge for it. I mean, people can use it, but it's written to where you put in the podcast host name and the topic that you want to talk about. And it gives you 2 pitches that, again, you use it as a foundation, make changes as needed. And then that you can copy and paste it and email it out to the different podcast hosts. But instead of you sitting back for hours trying to write out each thing, you put that in, and 30 seconds later, you have what you need.
Wow. That's crazy. That's
it's a little scary, but it's a tool, right? Yeah. And it's something that I needed. And what I realized when I posted it on Instagram, other people needed it too.
Yes. And I'll definitely have to actually tap into that for sure. Yeah. Because, wow, especially right now, podcasts are huge. Like, I really feel like that's the instead of people watching TV as much, they're now watching podcasts or listening to podcasts instead of listening to the radio. It's just a new way of giving information.
Right.
I think that's a tool that a lot of people would definitely utilize.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something that, again, it was a problem for me, right? I was like, man, I need to get these pitches out. I don't have time to write this. So I made the tool, and then I was able to, again, you still got to spend some time, because I'm still going to tweak, what the AI tool is giving me, but it cuts out so many hours of me having to think of, what do I need to say today, you know? So...
And I read an article not that long ago, and it was saying how a lot of the best businesses actually stemmed from the owners solving their own problem.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when we think about business entrepreneurship, we're trying to come up with like the next unicorn or the next big thing, and we end up just kind of spinning our wheels. But then we don't really look at, okay, what problems do I have right now that I could possibly find a solution for that other people might be having that same problem?
Yeah.
I think that's very powerful that you even just have had that thought process.
To me, it's, it's part of being a business owner. I'm solving problems all day, right? So I'm always thinking about how can I make things easier.
Right.
And to be quite honest, like, no knock to the person who wants to build the next Facebook, But that's not my ministry. Like, I'm not trying to build the next Facebook. I'm trying to solve real problems of real people, including myself.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, you've given a ton of insight, ton of information. I really, really appreciate it. For anyone who is watching this or listening to this, where can they find you on social media to maybe connect with you or watch some of the other content that you put out?
Yeah, so Instagram is the best place. It's where I spend most of my time. You can follow me at the Sabeina, and it's Sabeina Harris on Instagram. And shoot me a DM. I'll definitely respond back. If you message me saying, hey, I saw you on this show, could you tell me more information? I may send you a link and say, let's set up some time so I can give you my undivided attention, but I definitely will respond back to you.
And for your business, so I know that you help business owners, right, with creating their apps. Where can they inquire about that?
So same place. So the name of my business is Inspire, the letter U, apps. And you can find us on Instagram. You can also go to my personal Instagram page, and within the bio link, there's information there where you can set up a call. You can see our work. You can go to our website, so you can find all the information there. And any tips. So I post videos at least twice a week. As I learn tools and my team learns tools, I share the information. I'm not gatekeeping anything. Follow me on Instagram, and you can learn more about these AI tools that we're talking about, or just transitioning into tech.
I love it. No gatekeeping around here. No. We don't gatekeep over here. So, Sabeina, thank you so much for coming out again. It was definitely a pleasure. And I'm sure people have tons of questions after watching this. So we might have to do a follow-up because, like I said, there's just so much to talk about when it comes to the tech space.
Yeah.
And I just want as many people as possible to get this information. So again, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, and thank you for watching.
If you are enjoying this type of content from Beyond Her Hustle, make sure you go to beyondherhustle.com and join our growing community. There you can find additional resources, exclusive trainings, workshops, and so much more within our community. So make sure you go to beyondherhustle.com.